What it is, cucks? It's your boy, the hater, and I'm here with a follow-up to the John Cena situation. Now, I'm certain that some of you are thinking, hater, Cena's retired. Maybe you should retire your conversations about Cena. And to that I say, nah, motherfucks. We're just getting started with this John Cena business. This shit ends when the hater says it ends. You understand me? What they did to Cena should be studied in schools in ritual humiliation class. This was unnecessary. Let's run through something really quick before we get to the topic of this video. Gunther gets nothing for making Cena tap out, right? Gunther tomorrow could become the new world champion by squashing Cody Rhodes or squashing CM Punk, and no one would care. Likewise, Gunther can lose to a debuting Obafemi, and nobody would care. Likewise, Gunther can lose to a returning Disco Inferno, and nobody would care. Gunther is this guy who's always going to be in that position. The position of nobody gives a flying fuck, previously occupied by such jobbers such as CM Punk, Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre. That's his ceiling. He's never going to be bigger than Kevin Owens. Well, hater, he's a two-time champion. Nobody cares, all right? He's on the same level. Gunther is not main eventing a pay-per-view of any sort in any capacity unless he is wrestling up, right? Like, you could have Goldberg versus S.A. Rios and have it be Goldberg's retirement match, and that's going to go on last. The time when we see Gunther versus, I don't know, like fucking Chad Gable main eventing like SummerSlam, then Gunther has been made, right? Same thing with CM Punk. You know, every time CM Punk has ever main evented anything, he's always been the B side, right? He's never been the A side. And this is a common thing. A lot of wrestlers are like this, you know? Some wrestlers, for example, like, you know, Booker T is one like that, right? Where Booker T is not going to main event the pay-per-view unless he's wrestling. I don't think he's ever main evented a WWE pay-per-view at all, right? And if he has, it's been in some multi-man match. And quite frankly, there's a lot of wrestlers like this, including like Randy Orton, right? Randy Orton, I can't remember the last time Randy Orton main evented something without him being the B side, right? Even him versus Edge, like Edge was the A side in these feuds, you know? Like him versus Triple H, he was the B side. He's the B guy, right? Nothing wrong with that, right? But you know, once in a while, Randy Orton has done it. Like, there's been some pay-per-views where it's like Randy Orton versus, I don't know, like Wade Barrett or versus like Sheamus or something like that. Like, he's above those guys, but he's not above like John Cena or Batista or anybody like that. Anyways, the point is, like, Gunther is not going to get anything out of this shit, right? So, who does suffer and who does get something out of this? I mean, obviously, the fans get rammed, you know, and Cena gets rammed. Now, Cena can, you know, he can just ride off into the sunset and just kind of chalk this up to like, hey, this is how it went down. Sometimes you get over, sometimes you don't get over, you know, and that's life, right? Cena cannot go over every single time. And maybe that's how he's justifying it. But doesn't it feel, you guys, doesn't it feel a little bit like they tried to ruin Cena, right? So like, there's two scenarios, you know? There's, okay, we have this plan, and in this plan, Cena gets wrecked. Right? But there's a reason for the plan. And then there's the other possibility that there was no plan, and the plan actually was to have Cena get wrecked for no reason. In other words, before you leave, we're going to humiliate you a little bit. Now, this is not without precedent. Happens all the time. You know, Booker T, famously, he left WWE and went to TNA when they had to feed him to a returning Triple H. Right now, it was Triple H. It wasn't some jobber. But Booker T understood his spot, right? He was previously the world champion, world heavyweight champion, and now he was going to be fed to Triple H. You know, that's what you are, kid. You're a jobber to the stars. And that's actually very ironic because Triple H was never a star. But anyways, the point is, this is what happens. When people leave, especially, they're going to get the humiliation. But this is different because Cena has been the face of the company. And in my opinion, like, they want me and you to remember Cena as like the never seen 17, as the guy that never gives up, right? Even though he obviously just did. But why should we, right? Why can't we just think of Cena as the guy who allowed himself to be humiliated? You know, normally I don't care about the real life person. I care only about what is presented to me on TV. But if what is presented to me on TV is integrated with the real life person, then I develop opinions about the real life person. Simple as that. If Cena is willing to just humiliate himself, then why should I respect him? You know what I mean? As a fan, why should I? I don't care that my hero in life, John Cena, the character, lost to the villain. Sometimes, like I've always said before, motherfucks, one of the reasons why I love wrestling, sometimes the bad guy wins. And that's a good thing. But that's not what I'm concerned about here. My issue is not with that. My issue is with the man called John Cena, the guy that plays the character of John Cena. He has let himself be humiliated. I know that Cena fundamentally is just like The Rock. They're both careerist, fake-ass motherfuckers. You know what I mean? They used to be real and cool, and then they became fake-ass bitches. I understand that, you know? I don't hold anything against them. That's their prerogative, you know what I mean? You could either be an Adam Carolla, or you could be a Jimmy Kimmel. But I respect one over the other, motherfucks. Like, I know that there's people out there, like Kid Rock, for example, who was massive in the 90s. He could have done much better for himself if he decided to, in his 40s, sanitize himself and become more kid-friendly like everyone else does in their 40s, right? You look at Snoop Dogg, you look at Eminem, you look at Mike Tyson, you know what I mean? Everyone just turns into a bitch as they get older, but not everyone, right? And I'm not convinced that all these people simultaneously changed. No, they were just told to change. It's like, bro, we can't market you anymore like this, right? Because it's this guy's turn to be marketed like that. You have to change your personality. And that's what they do. But some people don't sell out. So I'm perfectly capable of understanding and agreeing with the sentiment that Cena and The Rock are both massive sellouts. No problem there, if you ask me, my friends. But the idea is that Cena, the character, has presented himself as someone that doesn't give up. And he did. Cena, the man, has presented himself as someone that really cares about this business. And in my opinion, if you care about the business, you're not going to agree to go out like this. Now, the part that pissed me off the most, honestly, wasn't even the fact that Cena tapped out. Because whatever. It happened. It was quick, right? Kind of like getting a shot. It happens. You know, it's quick. And then, like, Doc gives you a lollipop, puts some alcohol on your arm, puts a Band-Aid on that some bitch, and you're good to go. The thing that pissed me off was what happened afterwards. Where Cena did the whole dejected Cena look. It's like, I can't believe I lost, C Nation, right? And then Cucky Rhodes and CM Cuck come out with their shitty belts, and they give them to Cena like he's some Make-A-Wish kid. They put the belts on his shoulders like he's Connor the Crusher, like from back in the day. For those that don't know, Connor the Crusher was a little boy who, honestly, right now, he'd be like a teenager. It's kind of wild. He passed away, unfortunately, from cancer, and Daniel Bryan somehow was his favorite wrestler. So they brought him in, they made him into a character, kind of, and Daniel Bryan, when he won the titles at Mania, gave the belts to Connor the Crusher, you know? Connor the Crusher also humorously pinned Triple H. I'm sure Triple H hasn't gotten over that shit, the petty motherfucker that he is. But Connor was a kid. So you do these things to make kids happy. Cena's a grown-ass man, motherfucks. They're putting the titles on him, and go look at the footage. When they put the titles on his shoulders, look at Cena's face. It is the face of a humiliated cuck. That's what it is. You know that he feels like a retard in that moment, right? Because he is a real guy. A lot of the people that we like or dislike, you know, depending on which path they took, are real people. You know, like Jimmy Kimmel. I think he's a fucking cuck. He's a loser. He's a tool. But he is a funny guy. Oh, hater, the Jimmy Kimmel show isn't funny. I agree, motherfucks. You're preaching to the choir. But the guy, Jimmy Kimmel, who plays the character on TV of Jimmy Kimmel, is a funny guy. Because I've seen The Man Show. I've seen him do other jokes. He's fucking hilarious. You know? He's also a sellout, though. You know, in order to be a sellout, people forget. They think that being a sellout means you're like this complete nobody, and then you sell out, and then you become famous. No, you also have to be talented. Like Stephen Colbert is a sellout, but he's a talented guy. He's a funny guy. You know? You have to be talented. So in order to sell out, someone has to be there to buy what you're selling, dumbass. Right? That's the point. But anyways, the idea stands, right? Cena, sellout or not, comes out there looking like a retard with two belts on his shoulders. Then he reacts to the crowd. It's as if he's never held a title in his life, which is especially peculiar considering that Cena is the most decorated champion in WWE history, in the history of this business. And now, like, they're treating him like Cena treated Mark Henry. Mark Henry was never WWE champion. He won the World Heavyweight title, which, in my opinion, at that time, it counted. But, you know, like, he didn't win the WWE title, and Cena gives it to him when Mark Henry does the fake retirement. And then Henry just world's strongest slams him. Everyone cheers. Why did everyone cheer? Nobody really cared about Mark Henry. Mark Henry had like 5 fans. It's like me and 4 other guys who have liked him since day one, since it's sexual, baby. Whoa! Remember that, motherfuckers? I was a big fan since day one of Mark Henry. But the point is, nobody really gave a shit about Mark Henry, if we're being honest. They liked him in that moment because what he did was justifiable almost, right? At least in wrestling. In real life, if someone disrespects you, you don't attack them. But in wrestling, this is normal, right? Cena put the title on Mark Henry like Mark Henry's some retard, right? He put the title on his shoulder, and then Mark Henry's just standing there like a dipshit, you know? And he's like, what the fuck? I never earned it. And Cena's basically saying, look, I know you didn't win it, but here, kid, enjoy this moment. I'll need it back, but enjoy this moment. That's how this felt. Except, at the very least with Mark Henry, 2 things happened. Number 1, Mark Henry, world's strongest, slammed John Cena. And number 2, it was John Cena giving it to Mark Henry. It wasn't fucking Taka Michinoku giving the world title to the Undertaker, player. You know, in this particular case, Cody Rhodes and CM Punk are not fit to tie Cena's boots, to lace his boots, motherfucks. But they come out there and they've kind of like inserted themselves into this conversation through gaslighting of being considered legitimate WWE champions. The hater doesn't agree to this at all. But they have done that. Think about it, motherfuckers. Recently, the hater was watching a video by David Otunga. I'll use this as an example to illustrate what I'm saying. And there's a part where he's talking about confidence, right? And how important confidence is. And he says CM Punk delusionally believes, right, that he is the best looking guy in the world, right? He believes he's Brad Pitt. And then David Otunga says, but me, David Otunga, he's like, I believe that around here, I'm Denzel, right? Meaning that he believes, just like CM Punk believes, that he's the best looking guy, that Otunga believes he's the best looking guy, right? Now, I found this to be very strange and very telling of the times, because what Otunga tried to do there was try to equate himself to CM Punk. Like, he's obviously a better looking guy than CM Punk, but it wasn't about looks, right? The idea was like, CM Punk thinks he's hot shit, and I think I'm hot shit. So we both think we're hot shit, and it's like, the reality is neither of these guys are hot shit, right? Yeah, David Otunga is a good looking guy. CM Punk's not a bad looking guy. It would be a lie to say otherwise, right? I mean, he does look like a fucking, you know, like a homeless man sometimes, but he's a good looking guy, right? They're not Denzel and Brad Pitt. And while we're at it, if we're going to do the rankings, nobody's Brad Pitt, and very few men compared to Denzel either, you know? Like, but analogies aside, David Otunga and CM Punk tried to sneak themselves into elite company, right? Like, when David Otunga says, around here I'm Denzel, he's implying that he's close to Denzel. And I might even argue that he is. He's a good-looking guy, like I said before, right? CM Punk sure as shit ain't no Brad Pitt, and David Otunga or Denzel are not Brad Pitt either. But David Otunga can make that argument. He is a handsome guy. But the insecurity with which it comes is the point that I'm trying to get at here, right? He's trying to sneak himself into a category that he doesn't belong in. And that's what I felt like Cena, like what I should say CM Punk and Cody tried to do to Cena. They try to sneak into his category, right? They try to take the John Cena position with John Cena. They tried to be the person that gives the title to somebody else, which is a Cena move. And Cena took it. Now, okay, obviously in the moment, he's not going to while out, but the idea is he agreed to this shit. He agreed to this shitty send-off. You know, again, the tap out aside, it happened, let's move on, right? That happened. You can make an argument there that Gunther gets something out of this, although I think I refuted that argument pretty well earlier in this video. But with CM Punk and Cucky Rhodes, you can't make that argument. You cannot make that argument. These guys came in there just to kind of remind everyone that they're the champions. And the implications were almost like, here you go, John. We're the champions, but we'll let you hold on to these for a while. But don't worry, the WWE's in good hands. No, it fucking isn't. No, it isn't. It's in the hands of 2 men who tried to ruin WWE. They are the antithesis of John Cena. Because real life aside, John Cena stayed loyal to this company. There are a few men that have had the level of loyalty in wrestling that Cena has. Cena, The Undertaker, player, and I gotta say it like I gotta say it, Triple H and Shawn Michaels. They're loyal dudes. You know, Triple H is a lot of things, but he's not a fucking traitor. You could say he was motivated by one day becoming, Paul Levesque and having the reins, but irrespective of that, he stayed true. Triple H didn't try to have a movie career. I mean, he did those like dumbass movies where he's like a prisoner in like a bus or something, and it's like a children's comedy, some goofy shit like that. CM Punk tried to do some movies, but these guys have been loyal. And it's one thing for like Randy Orton to be loyal. You know what I mean? Because quite frankly, he doesn't have many other options, right? Randy Orton is a big deal, but like he's not John Cena. If John Cena goes to TNA, shit could change. If The Undertaker goes to TNA, shit could change. If Orton goes to TNA, it would be like when Kurt Angle went to TNA, right? It's gonna be a big deal, but it's not gonna tip the scales. A lot of these guys didn't stay loyal, and Triple H did, and Undertaker did, and Cena did. Cody Rhodes and the fucking CM Punk, on the other hand, asked for their releases, then left, bitched and moaned about the company, took a position of superiority, talked shit the whole time. Cody started a company that CM Punk joined in an attempt to destroy the WWE. I mean, obviously they probably didn't think it was going to work, but they tried nevertheless, right? This would be like if some little kid comes and punches you in the balls and it hurts a little bit, but you're like, oh, it's a little kid. I'm not going to kick his ass, obviously, right? And you know what? Whatever. It's a little kid. The punch didn't hurt that much. Sure. But I don't like that little kid if he does that, right? I'm not going to be like, hey, little kid, come run my company in 10 years. No, you punched me in the balls. I don't like you. You know what I'm saying? I don't like your attitude. I don't like the decisions you've made. Maybe not the best analogy because it's a kid, but you understand what I'm getting at. These guys are giving off now the vibes. These two AEW guys are telling Mr. WWE, don't worry, the company's in good hands. Shit, I almost want Gunther to become champion now when I think of it this way. But the point is, John Cena took it. These are two dudes. One's 48, the other's like 39. They're basically both in their 40s, almost, right? Cody's almost 40. And this is what we have to see now. Cody Rhodes, who honestly, since he's been Stardust, he left WWE when he was Stardust. He had 10 matches since then. And then he came back and now he's the main eventer. He didn't get better. He didn't learn any new moves. Same fucking Cookie Rhodes, motherfuckers. But the point is, they tried to take Cena's opportunity, to be part of his, I guess, retirement moment, if you want to call it that. I don't know if he's going to have a speech at some point. I thought there was a mic involved. The Triple H was like, no need for the mic. Just watch the package, right? Anyways, the point is, CM Punk and Cody Rhodes did their role. I'm not even mad at them, right? Jokes aside. The point is, John Cena signed on to this. John Cena should have said, look, he should have taken two positions. One of two positions. One, he wants a grandiose retirement where he squashes Gunther and then fucking fireworks start shooting out of everyone's asses. And then, you hear Cena, John Cena, you hear that kind of shit. Or he should have taken the quiet approach. I lose the match quietly and that's it. No, but he didn't take that approach, right? They obviously took approach one. They made an entire storyline for a year over this, where Cena's last match is going to be in December. They announced this fucking last year at the beginning of the year in January. They announced this is Cena's last year. I'm going to retire. He had a whole run. They did a whole tournament that Gunther won. The entire pay-per-view was predicated on Cena's last match, and then they don't follow through with the important part. And instead, they take this opportunity to, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a ritual humiliation, but it does feel like one, right? Where CM Punk and Cody have to come and console Cena. This is John Cena, motherfuckers. This would be like the equivalent. Let me give you a little analogy, because that's what the hater does best, is analogies. This would be like, for example, over the weekend, Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL. I really do hope he comes back, because people are already talking about him like he's dead. This is a young guy still, and they're talking about him like his career's over. And you know what? Even though I'm more of a Tom Brady guy, I like me some Patrick Mahomes. So go fuck yourselves. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, they're like all these people are saying oh, he can't hack it anymore. But Phillip Rivers, who I also like, unfortunately, they're like, he's back. He can do it. And it's like, bro, relax. Patrick Mahomes is not dead. Hopefully he comes back to full power. He's going to get some sort of surgery, I bet. But the point is, imagine, and I'll just use Tom Brady as an example because it's easier. Imagine if Tom Brady was retiring and you had Michael Vick and Ryan Leaf. Michael Vick's actually not a bad quarterback. They're Ryan Leaf and Teddy Bridgewater coming out here and being here are our jerseys. It's I wipe my ass with your jerseys. I'm fucking Tom Brady, man. I'm fucking Tom Brady. I'm the only quarterback your grandma knows. You know what I mean? I'm fucking Tom Brady. You are nobodies to me, right? Or for my basketball fans, right? It would be like if LeBron retires, which is going to happen sooner rather than later. When LeBron retires, imagine that. He retires, and then, like, even if it's like Luka Doncic and Jokic, it's still inappropriate. Even though they're like the top two guys, basically, right? Or two of the top guys. It's still inappropriate. But imagine if instead, it's like fucking Brian Scalabrine, right? In this analogy, he's still like, you know, competing, right? Brian Scalabrine, like Nate Robinson. They come and they're like, here we go, LeBron, here are our jerseys. Yo, what am I going to do with that? I'm LeBron. You must think that this is the retirement of fucking like Gravius Vasquez. This is the retirement of LeBron. I'm LeBron, motherfuckers. And again, for my soccer fans, when Ronaldo or Messi retires, imagine if like fucking Gvardiol, right, from Man City, a great player, but nevertheless not Messi or Ronaldo, if Gvardiol and like Omar Marmoush come out and they're like, hey man, here's my signed Omar Marmoush jersey. Ronaldo's gonna be like, who the fuck are you, man? I'm Ronaldo, you're Omar Marmoush. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I was your age, I was the best player in the world. Now you're like a bench player in Man City. You know? Know your role and shut your mouth, as The Rock said. You gotta know your place and shut your face. And that's what didn't happen. Cody Rhodes and CM Punk come out there implying that they're equals to Cena. They're not his equals. They are not on the same level as Cena. They're not even close, Kex. They're two jobbers who have just been the guys right now. That's all there is to it. If CM Punk weren't the champion, would Seth Rollins come out? At least CM Punk's better than Seth Rollins, from that perspective at least, because he has some history with Cena. You know? It would have been more appropriate if, like, I mean, Miz, they cucked him out earlier tonight, but if, like, Orton came out and just offered him a handshake, that'd be more appropriate. Because Orton, even though he's not the champion right now, he's seen as, like, contemporary, and they're almost equals, right? They're not equals, Cena's better, but if like, Orton or Batista came out, you know? Or even Kurt Angle or Booker T, the people that were at the ringside were more important, right? Because people were like, oh shit, look, it's these legends. You know? I actually respect these guys. Nobody except for, of course, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, you know what I mean? But the idea is what the idea is. Nobody gives a flying fuck about any of this shit, but Cena was humiliated, and he took the L up the ass, and he agreed to it. He agreed to basically make his retirement year about the company, which is consistent with his presentation of himself as a company man. But it was just not the right decision, as evidenced by the fact that motherfucks, including fucking the entire crowd in DC, explained themselves. They vocalized that shit. They started booing the motherfucker. And we're going to talk about that more, right? As things start getting pieced together, like, I'm curious to see if on Raw, right, or SmackDown as well, I guess, but this is more of a Raw thing. Like, I'm curious to see, like, if on Raw, they address the fact that Cena retired. Of course, they're going to mention it, you know? But I want to see if, like, Cena has, like, well, he's not going to come out because the last appearance was in DC, right? The last time is now. How fucked up would it be if he just shows up on Raw? You know what I mean? That's another thing. It's not like he didn't have a speech and he can do it on Raw. No, you advertise this as his last time, right? The next time we're going to hear from Cena is at the Hall of Fame, you know, in a year or two. Hopefully they put him in quick, you know, for obvious reasons. But anyways, I can see them waiting for Cena. But anyways, the point is, motherfuckers, we have these scenarios, you know, and, like, somebody's going to have to come and say something, I feel like. And if it's Triple H, he's going to get booed. And I think this is a turning point. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that us fans that were there and then boo Triple H, that the catalyst happened in Cena's last match. John Cena is like the last dam, right? The last dam that keeps the waters from flooding in. It is inevitable. Even if they gave Cena the best retirement of all time, this shit's inevitable. CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. Like, come on, motherfuckers. Without Cena, this show feels like fucking Dynamite. It feels like AEW. Oh, look, Cucky Rhodes and CM Punk are there. Maybe MJF can debut one day. You know? That's what we're going to see? I guess so, cucks. I guess so. But with that being said, the hater will see all you motherfuckers tomorrow for Monday Night Raw review. I'm curious to see what's going to happen from the perspective of whether Triple H is going to be there or not. Anything else about it, I couldn't give a fuck. But we'll see, cucks. Take care of yourselves and go fuck your own asses, huh?